How do we classify living organisms? Taxonomy presentation. Living organisms are first classified into one of three broad categories called domains. These three domains are bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Now notice how each domain corresponds to at least one kingdom. The bacteria domain corresponds to the eubacteria kingdom, and the archaea domain corresponds to the archaebacteria kingdom. Eukarya is the largest of all three domains, since it means organisms that have nuclei in their cells. That correlates to the last four kingdoms: Protista, Fungi, Animalia, and Plants. In this video, we will exclusively go through all of the kingdoms in full detail. Number 1. Archaebacteria. Have you ever wondered whether any kind of organism exists even in the volcanic vents or lava mud? It's unbelievable but true. Archaebacteria are such organisms that are the true extremophiles in the universe. With this being said, they can easily survive in such extreme environments where scientists thought life couldn't exist, but they do, such as sea vents releasing sulfide-rich gases, and hot springs like the one in Yellowstone Park, and hot boiling mud around volcanoes. So, how do archaebacteria survive in their environment? Well, for one, they are unicellular prokaryotes, meaning they are single-celled microorganisms that have no cell nucleus or any other membrane-bound organelles in their cells. Furthermore, archaebacteria can either be autotrophs or heterotrophs. So, some species of archaea are capable of making their own food, while others are not. Archaebacteria was once classified as bacteria until Carl Woese discovered it in 1977. Because of his work, it's now widely agreed that there are three primarily divisions of living systems: eukarya, bacteria, and archaea, a classification that was proposed by Woese in 1990. Moreover, archaebacteria is quite different from bacteria and eukaryotic organisms. For instance, bacteria has cell walls that contain the chemical peptide glycan. As you can see, archaeal cells don't contain this compound. Instead, their cell walls are made out of polysaccharides and proteins. Another difference is that archaebacteria can survive anywhere around the world, even in the most extreme conditions. Bacteria cannot. Archaebacteria are divided into three subgroups based on the habitats they are found in. These are methonogens, halophiles, and thermophiles. Methonogens are microorganisms that live in swamps and marshes under anaerobic conditions. They're also found in the gut of some herbivores, such as cows and humans. They're also present in dead and decaying matter too. They're strictly anaerobic organisms that are killed when exposed to oxygen. Their job is to reduce carbon dioxide using H2 and to release methane into swamps and marshes, that is called marsh gas. They're thus added to biogas reactors for production of methane gas in sewage treatment plants. An example of a methonogen is Methanococcus methanobacterium. They occur in marshy areas where they convert formic acid and carbon dioxide into methane. This is useful in the production of methane and in fuel gas inside global gas plants. Halophiles are organisms that can survive in an environment with high salt concentration. They are found in the Great Salt Lake, Dead Sea, and highly saline waters. Many species of halophiles contain a pink and red pigment known as carcinoids. They form colonies of bacteria, which can be as much as 100 million bacteria per millimeter. An example of a halophile is Halobacterium. They consist of several pieces of archaea with an aerobic metabolism, which require an environment with high concentration of salt. Last but not least, thermophiles. Thermophiles are organisms that can live in hot, acidic conditions. They can survive in sulfur-rich environments like hot springs and geysers that have temperatures over 50 degrees Celsius. An example of a thermophile is Elycyclobacillus. This bacteria is able to grow in acidic conditions, while the spores are able to survive in typical pasteurization procedures. Now, the discovery and a study of archaebacteria has opened up a whole new possibility of finding life in the most extreme environments, places where till now it was thought life couldn't exist. Doesn't that take us to a step closer to the possibility of finding life in the extreme environment of outer space? Think about it. Number 2. Eubacteria. Eubacteria are the most commonly found organisms in the world. They fall into the domain bacteria and are also known as true bacteria, as they're present on almost all surfaces. They're prokaryotic, hence their cells do not have a nucleus. Moreover, they're unicellular organisms. Eubacteria can be classified according to their shape and are found in three different shapes: 1. Spiral or comma-shaped like spirilla. 2. Rod-shaped like bacilli. And lastly 3. Round, spherical, or oval-shaped like cocci. The general structure of a eubacteria cell consists of a rigid cell wall which holds up all the organelles inside. The wall consists of amino acids and a sugar chain. The wall is also made out of peptide doglycan. From the inner side of the wall, the cell wall is lined up with the plasma membrane, like so. In some eubacteria, like here, the flagella is collected within the plasma membrane. As seen, the cell is filled with cytoplasm, which consists of other cell organelles like chromosomes and ribosomes. The most important point of which makes a eubacteria cell a prokaryote is the absence of a nucleus. Eubacteria are commonly known as heterotrophs, so they must take food from outside sources. Though, of those heterotrophs, a majority of eubacteria are also saprotrophs, which consume dead material or parasites which live on or within another organism at the host's expense. Moreover, many bacteria are decomposers, and they help dead organisms from covering the world while giving plants the nutrients that are essential to their growth. An example of eubacteria is Bacillus anthracis. This gram-positive, rod-shaped bacteria causes a serious infectious disease known as anthrax. Although it's rare, people can get sick with anthrax if they come into contact with any infected animals or animal byproducts. Another example is E. coli. E. coli are bacteria found in the environment, foods, and intestines of people and animals. E. coli are a large and diverse group of bacteria. Although most strains of E. coli are harmless, others can make you sick. Some kinds of E. coli can cause diarrhea, while others cause urinary tract infections, respiratory illness, and pneumonia, and other illnesses as well. Did you know that there's more eubacteria in your body than there are people in the world? Don't worry, most eubacteria are helpful and the minority of them cause sickness and disease. For example, they help digest their food, create yogurt and cheese, and make antibiotics. Eubacteria can also survive in a wide range of environments. Moreover, some eubacteria are aerobic, so they need oxygen to survive, while others are anaerobic, who die in the presence of oxygen. With this information, we can say that the eubacteria kingdom is an important part of living organisms. Though there are some species that may cause harm to the human body, this bacteria phylum is definitely an important part of our ecosystem. Number 3. Protista. The biological kingdom Protista includes a group of unique life forms composed of eukaryotic cells, which can be unicellular and multicellular. Well, with the exception of some algae groups, all protists are unicellular. These organisms are eukaryotes, so their cells have a defined nucleus that is surrounded by a membrane. Within this membrane, it's suspended within a jelly-like substance called cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm, we find such structures as endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi bodies. These organelles play an important role for the protists, such as protein cycorrection and transport. There are multiple kingdoms found within the domain Eukarya, like said at the beginning of this video, and protists make up one of those kingdoms. The kingdom Protista comprises a diverse group of organisms. They are so diverse that they are usually grouped based on how similar they are to other types of organisms. For example, there are plant-like protists, animal-like protists, and fungal-like protists. Since they are grouped into 3 categories, based on what group they are categorized in, they can either be autotrophs or heterotrophs. However, despite these differences, there are a few characteristics shared by them all, such as all protists are microscopic and live in aquatic environments, including lakes, rivers, oceans, streams, or even damp soils. They all are free-living or parasitic. They all have an aerobic mode of respiration and have mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell for cellular respiration. In the kingdom Protista, there are 16 phyla, and as said before, they are grouped in the categories animal-like, plant-like, and fungus-like. We will be discussing 12 out of the 16 phyla within these 3 categories. 1. Plant-like protists. The algae in this category can be unicellular and multicellular and have characteristics of both plants and animals. All algae in this category contain chlorophyll in their chloroplast and make their own food, so they're called autotrophs. The algae may also contain other pigments in addition to chlorophyll, giving them a color other than green. So the chlorophyll is there, it's just overpowered by the other colors. Almost all algae live in water, and the multicellular algae are seaweed, while the unicellular algae are phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are the unicellular algae that float near the surface of the water. They are an important part of the food chain and produce a lot of oxygen, which is released into the atmosphere. Algae are grouped into 6 different phyla based on their color. 1. Golden algae, which belong in the phylum Chrysophyta. Diatoms are a marine saltwater species of golden brown algae that make up a large part of phytoplankton. Diatoms form a hard box-like structure around their shells. When diatoms die, their shells do not decompose, but sink to the ocean floor and are collected in layers, forming deposits called diatomaceous earth. Diatoms' shells have been mined and used in a number of ways, such as the grit in toothpaste and in scoring powders, and insulation and water filters, in cosmetics, and in highway paints. The shells reflect the light very well. 2. Fire algae, which belong in the phylum Pyrophyta. Dinoflagellates are unicellular organisms that have a red pigment. They usually have 2 flagella that work together to produce a spinning motion. Some species of dinoflagellas have the ability to produce light, giving them a glow. This is called bioluminescence, meaning having light. Sailors often have a strange glow at night in the water behind their ships because of this species. Another species of dinoflagellas is responsible for red tides. This dinoflagella produces toxin. When it has a population explosion in one particular area of the ocean, it can kill other marine organisms and contaminate the fish and shellfish we eat. 3. Green algae, which belong in the phylum Chlorophyta. This type of algae can either be multicellular or unicellular, or may live in colonies like volvox. They live mainly in water environments but can also live in soil and on trunks of trees, only if the area is moist. Number 4. Red algae, which belong in the phylum Rhodophyta. A majority are multicellular and live in marine environments such as seaweed. They also often live deep in the ocean where only certain colors can be penetrated, mostly in the blue range. Carbohydrates from red algae form a substance called carrageenan, which is used as an emulsifier. An emulsifier helps keep substances mixed together that would normally separate, which helps make foods like ice cream and pudding creamy. Number 5. Brown algae, which belong in the phylum Phaeophyta. Like red algae, these algae are also multicellular organisms that live in marine environments. Many forms of seaweed are species of brown algae, for example, like kelp. Brown algae are important sources of food and shelter for marine animals. Algin is a substance produced from brown algae that is used to thicken certain foods, like ice cream and marshmallows. And finally, number 6, Euglena, which belong in the phylum Euglenophyta. They contain chlorophyll chloroplasts, so when light is present, they are able to make their own food. When light isn't present, they can capture and use other organisms as food sources. Like animals, they have a means of movement, such as a flagellum in their cells and a way of sensing their environment. They have an eye spot that detects light. Organisms that have a flagella will appear to move in a zigzag pattern. Number 2. Animal-like protists. Protozoans are animal-like protists that are unicellular and live in water environments and in soil. They are heterotrophs and eat only by capturing other living organisms or feeding on dead things, which are called saprotrophs, or as a parasite in another living organism as a host. Now, these organisms are generally grouped by their means of movement. 1. Saccharidines, which belong in the phylum Saccharidina. They are found mostly in fresh and saltwater environments, but can live in hosts as parasites. They move by using pseudopods. An example are amoebas, which are typical saccharidines. Pseudopods are an extension of the cell membrane and cytoplasm, meaning false foot. Organisms that move with pseudopods appear to flow when they move. Not only are they used for movement, but are also used to engulf food, such as endocytosis, which is a vacuole that forms around the food, and then enzymes are used to digest the food so it can diffuse into the organism. Number 2. Flagellas, which belong in the phylum Mastigophora. Most live in freshwater but can be parasites, causing disease, such as African sleep sickness. They all have one or more flagella that whip back and forth to help them swim in the water. Number 3. Ciliates, which belong in the phylum Chiliophora. Most ciliates live in water environments. All ciliates use cilia to move, which is a short, hair-like structure that wave gently to move the organism. Organisms that use cilia for movement appear to move in smooth, straight lines. A paramecium is a typical ciliate. It's covered with cilia that is used for movement, but cilia are also used to sweep food, casually bacteria or smaller protists, into the organism's oral groove, which is an opening into the perineum that will form a food vacuole at the end. A perineum has 2 nuclei. The macronucleus controls everyday activities, and the micronucleus controls reproduction. A contractile vacuole contracts to force out excess water from the perineum. 4. Sporozoans, which belong in the phylum Sporozoa. They live only as parasites and feed on the blood of their hosts. Plasmodium is a sporozoan that causes malaria. It's spread by one species of a mosquito. And lastly, number 3, fungi-like protists. Fungi-like protists share many features with fungi. Like fungi, they are heterotrophs, so they obtain food themselves and also have cell walls and reproduce by forming spores, just like fungi. They also don't have any means of movement, but develop some sort of movement some point in their lives. 2 major fungi-like protists are slime molds, which belong in the phylum Myxomycota, and water molds, which belong in the phylum Oomycota. Slime molds grow as slimy masses on decaying matter. They are commonly found on items such as rotting logs. Water molds are present in moist soil and surface water. They can also live as parasites or on decaying organisms. Now, with all of this information, we can say protists are a very diverse group of organisms. So the reason why they are so important is because they form the energy base of most marine and freshwater chains. Number 4. Fungi. Fungi was earlier a part of the plant kingdom. Then it was discovered that they have many characteristics that could justify their placement in the animal kingdom. Outrageous. However, they did not have enough of these. Hence, to make things less complicated, they have assigned their own kingdom. They exhibit many characteristics of eukaryotes, which made it impossible to classify them as microorganisms. Let's understand fungi, which of them are useful and which of them cause disease. First of all, like said, they are eukaryotes and belong in the domain Eukarya. As eukaryotes, fungal cells contain a membrane-bound nucleus where the DNA is wrapped around the histone proteins. A few types of fungi have structures comparable to bacterial plasmids, which are loops of DNA. Moreover, they are multicellular, but some, like yeast, are simple unicellular organisms that are probably evolved from multicellular ancestors. Kingdom fungi comprises fungi such as mushrooms, molds, and yeast. They are heterotrophic, but a majority are also decomposers. In the system of classification, fungi are placed in a group of different from bacteria, animals, and plants. Since their cells don't possess chlorophyll but possess chitin, they are unable to carry out photosynthesis. Moreover, since they don't have chlorophyll, they obtain nourishment from hosts by acting as parasites. Many species of fungi are also saprophytic. The characteristics of 70,000 species of fungi have been documented till date. However, it's estimated that the total number of species of fungi could be 1.5 million. The kingdom fungi contains 5 major phyla that were established according to their mode of sexual reproduction or using of molecular data. The 5 true phyla of fungi are Criteriommycota, which are chytrates, Zygomycota, which are conjugated fungi, Ascomycota, which are sac fungi, Bastiomycota, which are club fungi, and the recently added phylum Glomeromycota. The Criteriommycota phylum, the chytrates, are considered to be the most primitive group of fungi. They are mostly aquatic, and their gametes are the only fungal cells known to have flagella. They reproduce sexually and asexually. The sexual spores are called zoospores. The Zygomycota phylum, the zygote fungi, produce non-septated hyphae with many nuclei. Their hyphae fuse during sexual reproduction to reproduce a zygospore in a zygospore sporangium. Asomycota, the sac fungi, form spores in sacs called asci during asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is their most common form of reproduction. Basidiomycota, the club fungi, produce showy fruiting bodies that contain basidia in the form of clubs. Spores are stored in the basidia. Most familiar mushrooms belong to this division. And finally, the Glomeromycota form tight associations called mycorrhizae with the roots of the plant. Kingdom fungi are definitely an important part of our ecosystem since they are important decomposers and get rid of unnecessary waste from the planet. Number 5. Plantae. There are different types of plant species in the world that are classified in the plant kingdom. This classification is based on their similarities and differences. Kingdom Plantae is also called the Metaphyta kingdom. They include organisms that are multicellular and autotrophic eukaryotes, so their cells have a defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. They are also capable of making their own food. Their cell walls have cellulose, so they are able to undergo photosynthesis. Some cells even have chloroplasts and water-filled vacuoles. Some characteristics of the kingdom Plantae are they have the ability to grow by self-division. In life cycle of plant cells, the interchanges occur from the embryos and are supported by other tissues and cell produce. Plants both have organs and organ systems. Plants reproduce both sexually and asexually. Plants develop a self-defense mechanism to protect them from being destroyed by animals, fungi, and other plants. And of course, they have no mobility. There are 12 phyla in the kingdom Plantae, and we will be going through 9 out of the 12 phyla. In these 9 phyla, they are grouped into 5 categories. Category 1. Bryophytes. They have no vascular tissue. They are soft and small with no support. They also have no waxy cuticle or roots. Since they have no roots, they have rhizoids, which are hair-like structures that anchor the plant down. The gametophyte stage is dormant in these plants. The sporophytes are always attached to the gametophytes. The reproduction process is carried out by their spores. They play a significant role in preventing soil erosion and are found on the ground, other plants, and rock. There are 3 phylums associated with bryophytes: phylum Heptacophyta, phylum Anthoceratophyta, and phylum Bryophyta. 1. Phylum Heptacophyta. They are also known as liverworts. Their gametophytes are leafy and flat. The cells of the gametophytes have chloroplasts and oil body. Sexually produced structures are archegonia, with a modified thallus, thalloid liverworts, and leafy liverworts. Number 2. Phylum Anthoceratophyta. They are also known as hornworts. They are the least diverse, but their abundance have been found everywhere. They have giant chloroplasts per cell with nostate colonies. Nostate colonies are chambers that open to the environment and are divided by blue-green algae that fix nitrogen. Number 3. Phylum Bryophyta. They are also known as mosses. Their gametophytes are leafy and their leaves are spirally arranged, which grow alongside the ground and make buds shoot up. The 3 parts of the sporophyte are the foot, seta, and sporangia. The seta elongates to push up the sporangium before the sporangium and spores mature. After set elongation, the clear phyra falls off the spores and are reversed. The opericium falls off and helps disperse the spores. Category 2. Seedless vascular plants. They are exactly like the title of their category. They have vascular tissue but don't produce seeds. Their reproduction is dispersed by spores, which are typical unicellular haploids. They consist of ferns and fern alleles, like club mosses and horsetails. The sporophyte is a dominant stage. The gametophyte is very similar to the one in the phylum Hapdicophyta, but the difference is the seedless vascular plants don't have oil bodies. These plants are involved in the transportation of fluids. There are two phylums, Lycopodiophyta and Pteridophyta. Phylum Lycopodiophyta. These are the oldest living vascular plant division. They include club mosses, spike mosses, and quillworts. They have microphyll, which are small leaves that have a single vascular vein rather than complex ones found in ferns and seeded plants. Lycopodiophyta reproduce by shedding spores that have macroscopic life cycles. Even though spike mosses and quillworts are heterospores and club mosses are homospores, the spores are highly flammable and have been used in fireworks before. They have strobili, which are modified branches that have sporangia and cones, but quillworts lack cones. Phylum 2. Phylum Pteridophyta. This is a highly diverse phylum. They include whisk ferns, horsetails, and true ferns. They have leaves called fronds containing complex branching veins called megaphylls, except whisk ferns don't have leaves or roots, so they have rhizoids instead. Sporangia is located on the underside of leaves in clusters called sori. Their ferns are split into two groups based on the sporangia they have, eusporangia and leptosporangia. Eusporangia have thick walls and are more primitive, whereas leptosporangia have thin walls and are more advanced. Leptosporangia have an unulus, which dries out, splits open, and catapults the spore out. Category 3. Seed-bearing vascular plants. They are also called spermatophytes. As their title says, they reproduce by dispersing seeds. All plants in this category are heterosporous, meaning one plant produces both male and female spores. They produce microspores and macrospores. There are two types of seed-bearing vascular plants, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms include four phylums, Psychodophyta, Ginkgophyta, Coniferphyta, and Netophyta. Angiosperms have one phylum called Anthophyta. Gymnosperms have naked seeds, no flowers or fruits, an xylem made of tracheids, a phloem made of sieve cells and no fiber. 1. Phylum Psychodophyta. They are a very primitive phylum. They contain palm-like trees, mostly in tropics and subtropics. They have large cone-shaped strobili that produce pollen or ovules transferred by air or insects. 2. Phylum Ginkgophyta. They contain among species that have survived around the time of the dinosaurs. These trees show resistance to insects, disease, and air pollution. They have fan-shaped leaves, and the trees can either be male or female. Female trees produce seeds covered in a fleshy, smelly coat. 3. Phylum Coniferphyta. They are woody plants and are economically important for the production of lumber and paper. They reproduce more slowly than angiosperms and dominate mostly in the far north at higher elevations. They make up the boreal forests. 4. Phylum Netophyta. They are the most unusual gymnosperms, and they have leaves that are similar to angiosperms and contain double fertilizations without endosperm, and are located in the tropical and desert areas where insects pollute them. Lastly, angiosperms. They have enclosed seeds, flowers, fruits, and double fertilization that produces endosperm. Lastly, phylum Anthophyta. They have flowering plants and are characterized by flowers that aren't always seen, and their seeds are enclosed in an ovary. Kingdom Plantae contains about 300,000 different species of plants. Among the 6 kingdoms, Kingdom Plantae is important because they are the source of food for all living creatures present on planet Earth, which depend on plants to survive. Lastly, the 6th kingdom, Animalia. The major group of animals are classified under the kingdom Animalia, also known as Metazoa. All the members in this kingdom are multicellular eukaryotes. They are heterotrophic, meaning they depend on other organisms directly or indirectly for food. Most of the animals ingest food and digest food in the internal cavity. Most of the organisms are also motile, which means they can move independently and spontaneously. Animal cells are typical of the eukaryotic cell. They are enclosed by a plasma membrane and containing a membrane-bound nucleus and organelles. Unlike the eukaryotic cells of plants and fungi, animal cells don't have a cell wall. They also have multiple cells with mitochondria for cellular respiration. Along with mitochondria, they also have other organelles such as Golgi bodies, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, vacuoles, centrioles, and cytoskeleton. There are 9 to 10 million species of animals, and about 800,000 species are identified. Fossil records of animals were found in the area of the Cambrian explosion about 540 million years ago. Animals are divided into various subgroups. Biologists have identified about 36 phyla within the animal kingdom, including birds, mammals, reptiles, fish, amphibians, etc. Here are 8 of them. 1. Phylum Porifera, which include sponges. They live mainly in marine saltwater conditions and have a porous body wall. The pores or holes allow water to pass through this animal. Floating particles are caught once they are inside the sponge. Adult sponges are sessile feeders, which means these animals are attached to shells or rocks on the ocean floor as they feed. They are asymmetrical, meaning they have no definite shape. Number 2. Phylum Nigeria. This includes jellyfish, hydras, and corals. They all live in marine environments, and their body wall is made of 2 cell layers called ectoderm and endoderm. The ectoderm is the outside layer, while the endoderm is the inside layer. A jelly-like material is found between these 2 layers. And they have an incomplete digestive system, so that means they only have one opening for its mouth and anus. Their body symmetry is radial, and most Nigerians have tentacles containing stinging cells that are used for protection and capturing food. Their bodies also contain a nerve network that allows movement for the tentacles and body. 3. Phylum Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes, which include the flatworms, planaria, and tapeworms. They live in fresh and saltwater and on land. These animals are given their name because of their flattened bodies. Flatworms have 3 distinct tissue layers called the ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, or middle layer. Each layer gives rise to the various organs and systems of this animal. In free-living species of flatworms, the digestive system is incomplete, which means the digestive cavity has only a single opening. The parasitic tapeworm has no need for a digestive system because it absorbs nutrients that are already digested by the host in which it lives in. Flatworms have a bilateral symmetry and have a definite head and tail region. The planaria has a pair of eye spots at the interior or front end. These eye spots detect light, which the planaria avoids, so they are less visible to their predators. The tapeworm, like other parasitic worms, are a thick protective cuticle on the outside of its body. The cuticle protects the worm from being digested by the strong digestive enzymes of its host. 4. Phylum Nematoda, which are the roundworms. They live in fresh and salt water and on land. The body and roundworm is long and smooth and unsegmented. Their cylindrical bodies are tapered at both ends and are covered by a protective cuticle. These tissue layers are ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Roundworms have a complete digestive system, which means their digestive tract has 2 openings, a mouth to ingest food and anus to ingest food. They have a bilateral symmetry with an anterior end and a posterior end. They are free-living roundworms and are extremely plentiful in soil and are essential in producing quality soil. Pinworms are commonly parasitic roundworms that are found in children. 5. Phylum Anthropida. which are the arthropods, insects, spiders, and crustaceans. They are found in all environments. Arthropods are the most successful of any animal group. This is mainly due to the success of insects, which has more than 1 million different species. Arthropods have a segmented body with a paired jointed appendages that provide excellent movement for walking, swimming, flying, grabbing, fighting, digging, and biting, just to name a few. In most arthropods, the body is divided into a head, abdomen, and thorax. The outside skeleton of arthropods is made out of chitin, which protects the soft body of this animal and prevents water loss, allowing them to live successfully on land. Their body symmetry is bilateral. 6. Phylum Mollusca, which include the mollusks, clams, snails, oysters, and octopus. They live in marine and freshwater and on land. They have a soft, unsegmented body and often with a strong muscular foot on its ventral surface. They are well known for their tongue-like organ called the radula, which has many rows of teeth and is used to scrape food from the surface of plants and rocks. The mantle is a fold of skin that surrounds the body organs. The mantle acts like a gland because it's capable of secretion. These secretions harden to help the shells of mollusks, and they have a bilateral symmetry. 7. Phylum Echinodermata. The echinoderms, which are sea stars, sea urchins, and they mostly live in marine, living on the ocean floor. Echinoderms have an internal limey skeleton and have a spiny outside surface or skin. These structures give both support and protection. Enteroderms, like sea stars and sea urchins, are well known for their water vascular system, which consists of water-filled tubes that run through their body. By moving water in and out of these tubes, enteroderms can move on jets of water and use their tube feet as suction cups. They have a complete digestive system and have a radial symmetry. But not lastly, 8. Phylum Chordata. The chordatas are fish, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and mammals. They live in marine, freshwater, and on land. They have a bilateral symmetry, and they also have a flexible supporting rod or notochord on their dorsal side. In the invertebrates, the notochord remains stiff and flexible, and the vertebrate's cartilage or bone replaces the notochord to form supporting backbone. Hope you guys learned a lot about the 6 kingdoms. I'm sure this video was very informational to you all.